the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
But I'm not really confident saying they have anybody else on the roster. So if there is a big name guy or there's a guy out there that Tennessee thinks can be that, I think they should go extremely, extremely hard at him and commit to getting him. And as much as I think Brew McCoy is a really solid player and he's a good player, like I don't think his ceiling is number one receiver level good. I think he's, a good number three, a solid number two. And I think we've had this conversation a couple weeks ago. Squirrel White just, I like him a lot, but he's not going to be a guy that's going to go out there and I think have a 13-yard season and be your go-to guy on third downs and stuff like that. So I think there's a glaring need for a number one. And maybe they gamble on thinking it's Dante Thornton, but that's certainly a position I would be monitoring and trying to go hard at if some big name guy does pop up and enters the portal.
Final thing here, Jack. The most important senior that if you're Josh Heupel, you work to talk back into one more year at Tennessee, who is it for you?
Spraggins and Mays.
Okay. I would agree, probably.
And it feels like, Mays, the whole report of him not doing it, it's a little more publicized that he was not going through senior day. The Spraggins ones, obviously not a lot there, but those two guys.
If you only get one, who do you take? Is it Mays? If you only can have one back.
It's got to be Mays.
Yeah, I'd say so.
What about you, Ryan? Are those your two most important ones to come back to talk into coming back?
My two as well. And really, it's everybody on the offensive line.
Yeah.
But I think those are the two best offensive linemen. So I'll say them. And I mean, it's just for the reasons that we talked about earlier in this podcast of how bad Tennessee's depth is at offensive line and how bleak things look after the starters or maybe the first 7 or 8 guys. And if Cooper Mays is gone, who's starting at center? Because I got no confidence in anybody
I guess,
currently
right?
on. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in anybody that's currently on Tennessee's roster. So maybe you go out and find somebody in the portal. Maybe a young guy like Vyson Lang does take a big step. But to your point, Chase, Vyson Lang, Tennessee was down 3 offensive line starters yesterday. They were winning by 30 points for a large part in the second half, and he did play. So that's not exactly a ringing endorsement of where he's currently at in his development.
You could sell me on it being Omari Thomas.
They need the body.
They don't have any depth at defensive tackle right now. I mean, maybe what Tyree Weathersby looks like going into next year, because losing him early really sucked for them. But Omar Norman Lott, like I think that's kind of like terrifying if they lose Lott and Thomas this cycle, because there is not like Bryson Eason's back, but I mean Elijah Simmons I think can come back. Devin Hobbs should be a starter next year. He's popped, but they just don't have a lot of bodies at DT. Like Terry leaving this past cycle hurt their bodies. Karak Garland I think is gone. I don't know. Like they're really thin there, and I mean Omari's a leader on that side of the ball. That kind of worries me. I would say Omari Thomas is a sneaky important one to get back for one more year to bridge the depth gap.
Yeah, I think it's one of those two guys. You need one of those two guys back. I mean, you probably vote Omari because he's been more consistent and he is a leader. But
yeah,
if they get one of Omar Norman Lott and Omari Thomas back, I'm not like overly concerned about it. There's pressure on those guys
that pops up
that
I would be like, yeah, it's Keenan Peely. Like if you get Keenan Peely back for year 19 of his college career, because I think the man's like 27, that's a win. Because then if you feel good about the linebacker room, right? Like if you have Peely back and then you have Telander, Spillman, Carter, and Elijah back where I'm not going to do this. Elijah is like your 5th most important linebacker. You're in a much better spot.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier when we were talking about Telander. It's just,
he looks good.
Is it him and Carter? I guess it's him and Carter next year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would say with him and Carter, like those are two dudes. And again, this is like somewhere that young guys typically develop a lot. Two dudes that haven't necessarily looked great in pass coverage. But as I'm saying this and I'm thinking it through, literally none of Tennessee's returning linebackers.
I was going to say, beggars can't be choosers here.
Mark on all their games. So, yeah.
There you go.
Side, I guess.
Ryan Schumpert, what can the good folks check out from you and the team over at Rocky Top Insider this week?
Oh, all the normal good stuff. Kicking off the off season, we'll be monitoring the transfer portal from both names that make sense for Tennessee and Tennessee guys entering it. Any sort of decisions we get this week on players deciding to come back or go. Any coaching decisions, any recruiting, all the stuff in the off season. And Rick and I will be in Chapel Hill this week for Tennessee as basketball as they look to get back on the right track after losing 2 straight to end the Maui Invitational.
Can't lose too many more games. You don't win the title with double-digit losses heading into the NCAA tournament. So they've given up 2 early.
I'm glad that you're changing the bar to 10 because it was last year you were giving up on them. I think it's 8?
I think it
before
said 8 or 9
tournament.
Yeah.
But you did have a stat.
Go. Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.